Hey everyone, welcome back to the Have You Seen It YouTube channel. My name's Mason Knight. If you guys like what you see here today, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave your comment below on our new segment that we're doing on this YouTube channel called Behind the Movie. And the film that we're going to be discussing today is Avatar. So let's jump right into it. Jake Sully, a paraplegic Marine, decides to take on a mission designed for his now deceased twin brother who was killed in a robbery. Jake Sully is brought to a far-off planet named Pandora. There, he is introduced to greedy, self-indulgent corporate figurehead Parker Selfridge, who has plans to drive off the native humanoids called the Na'vi, so he can mine their land of precious materials. Jake is offered by overzealous Colonel Quaritch surgery to get his legs back if he gathers intel on the practices, culture, and map layouts of the Na'vi. Because the planet's environment is poisonous, human-Na'vi hybrids called avatars must link to human minds to allow for free movement on Pandora. Jake agrees and begins to study the Na'vi, but falls in love and now must fight for the freedom of the planet and the Na'vi people from evil corporate greed and genocide. The film was written and directed by James Cameron. Cameron originally planned to have this film completely made by the end of 1999. At the time, making a movie of this caliber would have cost $400 million. No studio wanted to take the risk and fund the film, thus being put on the shelf for about 8 years. In 2002, when James Cameron saw what director Peter Jackson was able to do with Gollum in Lord of the Rings, he was convinced that CGI effects had progressed enough to make his film. Eventually, he promised 20th Century Fox that if Avatar was a flop, he would waive his director's fee. You see, 20th Century Fox knew of the insane cost and production overruns of James Cameron's last film, Titanic, despite being the highest-grossing film of all time before Avatar. 20th Century Fox eventually agreed and signed the check for an estimated $200 million. At the time, it was the most expensive movie ever made. And speaking of firsts, Avatar was groundbreaking in more ways than one. This was the first movie ever to be shot with a 3D camera, released in 3D and in IMAX 3D to be nominated for the Best Picture Academy Awards. The film would go on to reach $500 million in just 32 days, beating The Dark Knight's record of 42 days and its own previous record of 98 with the Titanic. Avatar took 4 years to make from start to finish. It is reported that some scenes in the film took an average of 50 hours to render the CGI footage. A staggering 60% of the entire movie was shot with photorealistic CGI, while the other 40% was live action. It took over a year to finalize Zoe Saldana's scenes as Neytiri, as it was 100% done physically, facially, and vocally all at the same time. The actors playing the Na'vi wore cameras that attached to their heads so they could get close-ups of their faces. Dots were painted on the faces, allowed motion capture software to record their facial expressions, providing a framework from which the CGI artists worked. James Cameron is reported to have said that this was completely different from anything he'd made before. He said the film was a complete lead into the unknown, like a jump off a cliff and madly fabricating a parachute on the way down. He says it was a lot of fun to be on the edge and know that you're doing something nobody has ever done before. And ultimately, the risk paid off, because Avatar was the first film to be entirely shot on digital to win Best Picture Cinematography at the Oscars. James Cameron was masterful with his vision of Pandora. Every animal and creature made with beautiful, breathtaking detail, especially considering the film was made over a decade ago. 20 of the world's top creature designers worked with James Cameron on the film, as well as the character design and landscape designs, all of the hardware, amp suits, and the helicopters. 18 months was spent on the design. James Cameron wanted the creatures to be plausible so their form and function were interrelated. For example, these were the questions he'd ask. If a creature has 4 wings, how does it fly? Do the wings move together or the opposite way, or 90 degrees out of phase like they do in the film, with one wing moving and the other acting as a stabilizer? You may have noticed the multiple breathing orifices of the larger animals in Pandora. Cameron said this was inspired by sports cars who have air intakes on sides of the vehicle. Cameron often ties religious names and visuals into his films. For instance, the Na'vi are blue to create the idea of traditional Hindu depictions of God, and the word Na'vi in Hebrew means prophet. A Na'vi is a visionary, or someone who communicates directly with God. This project was extremely personal to James Cameron. Before production began, he took the actors to Hawaii and spent days trekking through the forest and jungles, living like tribes so they could get a better sense of their character and the Na'vi people. He made this a priority because he knew that there would be no jungle props on set. it would all be green screen. It was reported by CNN that James Cameron would visit the Brazilian rainforest on more than one occasion and received outcries from tribal leaders who were emotionally inspired by the film. One time, James dressed like a real-life Jake Sully with war paint and a spear in hand and met with 18 indigenous tribal leaders to stop the construction of a dam. Jake Sully and John Smith from Pocahontas have the same initials, J.S., and there are many striking similarities to the romanticized story of Pocahontas. Both films have someone from an invading force who falls in love with the princess and learns their ways, ultimately siding on the side of the natives and fighting against the invaders. Some critics even describe the movie as anti-war. James Cameron repeatedly denied those accusations, but said the film had a very strong message of environmentalism because, well, he was a tree hugger. Avatar ended up crushing in the box office at a staggering $2.79 billion. Having had so much success with the first film, it was announced almost immediately that there would be a sequel to Avatar. In fact, there were going to be a total of 4 new movies being planned. Avatar 2, December of 2021, Avatar 3, December 22nd, 2023, Avatar 4, December 19th, 2025, and Avatar 5, December 17th, 2027. James Cameron is writing and directing all 4 movies and started filming on Avatar 2 and 3 in September of 2017. And on November 14, 2018, it was announced that the principal performance capture cast had been completed. Post-production started the following year, April 18, 2019. Thanks everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. If you could, just take a second, like the video below, leave a comment, and be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification. Get all the latest updates on our channel. We're really trying to grow. We appreciate your guys' support, and until next time.